All right, let's start. So, welcome everybody, and thanks for coming to this session. I will talk about trainings and open source. I don't know how is it for you, but for us it is a complex topic. Let's say I will cover that a bit. How many of you are from an OSPO, an open source program office? And how many of you are struggling with making trainings for your company? Okay, so I hope that I can help you with that. I'm not saying that I'm telling the absolute truth about this because there is no such thing. I think this problem is very specific of the context. So it depends on what company are you working for, what industry is in the company in. So it's not possible to provide generic guidance on all of that. So my name is Gergely Csatari. I'm working on the Nokia open source program office. I'm doing this since many years now, maybe 10, I think. Our open source program office was formed 15 years ago, and we have a long history of open source and open source compliance. We always had trainings about open source, but in the last couple of years, we are running a program where we are renewing our open source curriculum, and that's what I will talk about. It's not done yet, so if you have any feedback, I'm also very open to start a discussion and learn from your experiences. OSPO is a central team in the CTO office, and we are organized in a way that the members of the OSPO are responsible for different technology topics and different OSPO kind of topics. So my role inside the OSPO is to do compliance and policies. I'm also running an internal multidisciplinary team, let's say, which decides on contributions. And I'm also responsible for tooling, so I'm following what kind of tools are there related to compliance in open source. And I'm also part of the team who is working on the training program. I'm also a member of a couple of communities because that's also part of our OSPO's mission to support the communities which are critical for us. So I'm doing community management related tasks in a couple of open source projects, and I'm a member of the TSCs of a couple of other open source projects. Also, in our OSPO team, I am the, let's say, cloud and cloud native person, so I have to know what is happening in the industry in this domain, and I need to follow what is happening there. So that's about me, and as you might guess, my hobby is freeride snowboarding, or that's one of my hobbies. And I wanted to make this a bit interactive, so if you have anything to ask, if you would like to say something, just raise your hand even during the presentation, and let's make it a bit interactive. If you don't want to do that, then you have this opportunity that with this slide, or you can ask questions or make comments on your phone, and we can discuss them after the presentation. To be honest, I'm not really experienced with Slido, so I just learned about it 2 years ago from Anna in the to-do track. So let's see how it works. There are these opportunities to interact. Okay, so let's jump to the topic. I think for this crowd, it's not a surprise that there is no software without open source. I would even say that there is no technology company without open source. And this fragment of a paper is presented in many presentations about open source. This is a part of the latest report by Black Duck. They are doing this report every year since many years now. Previously, this was the Synopsys open source security report, but now they are called Black Duck. So this is now the Black Duck report. And the source of this data is not the whole universe, of course. The source of this data is the data that they are analyzing during their activities of M&A. So they are doing code analysis for M&A activities, and they are using that data to crunch these numbers, and these numbers are coming from that. So this is like more like an assumption, but I think it's quite well maps to the reality, at least the reality of our company, at least, that almost all our products have open source in them, no doubt about that. However, Nokia is doing lots of different products. By the way, how many of you know what Nokia does? How many of you think that Nokia does phones? Okay, no, we do not do phones. We did phones, that was nice, but that's now gone. We are a network infrastructure provider. So what we do is everything between the phones. So all the antennas, servers, everything what makes those small bars in your phones, that's what we do. We also do a couple of routers and switches, so that's another business area where we are interested. So it's a very broad portfolio, but I can say that almost everything what we do contains open source, and we have like lots of products where the proportion of open source is higher than the proprietary code. So it's getting to all parts of the industry, and all industry actors are using open source to accelerate their innovation, to make the R&D more effective. So all of us know this story. From this presentation's perspective, the important thing that every company have to learn about open source, and almost every employee of the company have to know something about open source, because it affects the whole company. It affects how the software is developed in the company. It affects how we are interacting with the ecosystem. So everybody have to know something about open source. Here comes the difficulty, because open source is very complex, and everybody needs to know a bit different thing about open source. If you think about it, like open source has an aspect of technology, of course. Like software is developed in open source. There are lots of innovation happening in open source. There are lots of collaboration happening in open source. There is a community aspect. There are different ways to collaborate with industry peers using open source. You can use open source for many things, and also there is a big area of compliance. Of course, when you consume open source, you have to be compliant with the licenses. You have to take care of all the obligations. You have to do your software composition analysis. So there are all of these aspects, but these are affecting the different actors in the company in a different way. So there is this sort of matrix happening between the different topics of open source and the different audiences of the trainings. So that makes the problem difficult. At least that was what made the problem difficult for us. So we started to think about who do we make the trainings for? Because before this curriculum, we just created generic open source trainings, which were how to put it, medium level for all the developers in the company. But we did not consider, for example, management. We did not consider legal separately. And it caused a lot of friction and unhappiness in the people who received the trainings. I have one concrete example happened when we had the generic training, and one feedback from one person was that, okay, this is very nice, but I'm a developer. What do I need to do exactly when I would like to contribute to an open source project? So that's a different area of knowledge, which is also very, very important, but it's important for a smaller area of persons. So we started to think about these different personas, and we of course identified that we have a developer persona. Most of the people who are working for Nokia are developing software, so they have to know about one set of things about open source. Then we have the legal persons who are looking to open source also from different perspectives. So of course we have the compliance legal, but also we have like legal who are negotiating the contracts. Open source is also there. We usually have like some clauses about open source in the contracts, and legal persons who are negotiating those contracts need to know what is that about. What are, you know, the nuances are very important in these contracts. So they have to have like also a specific knowledge. Then we have managers, which are important from, again, like several perspectives. They are managing the developers, so they have to know what the developers would need to know. But also, they are somehow controlling how investment happens in the company. So you have to be able to convince leaders, like higher level managers of things. And open source is usually part of these discussions, because as we said, like, you cannot do anything without doing something in open source or with open source. So if you start any project, if you invest to anywhere, there will be open source there. And there are many other actors, including, I don't know, even marketing and PR, who should somehow have some kind of a sense what this open source is. So then we started to think about, like, okay, now we know that we have these different actors. They need to know different things, but still we need to somehow put these pieces of knowledge into boxes, because we have to provide trainings, because like trainings are practically like boxes of knowledge what you hand over to somebody. So how to create a system where everybody can pick the right path for them, or the right box for them. So we came up with an idea that these different actors need to find the set of boxes what is important for them, and we started to identify these topics for trainings which are important for the different actors. So our approach is that everybody needs some kind of a basic knowledge, which is very high level, but just sets the scene. It defines what open source is. It defines why is it important. Why is it important for Nokia? That's another very important aspect. When you do trainings, you have to explain why the subject matter is important for your company and for the persons who are receiving the training. So we decided that we create like a generic open source basics training, which provides this general knowledge for everybody. It's this kind of a level setting, and then on top of that we have several modules, and practically these modules are falling into two categories. One is about compliance and processes, which is like not the most exciting part of open source, but we have to do it. And here again, like different parts of compliance are relevant for different personas. So we have inbound and outbound compliance, and of course inbound is important for every developer. Every software contains open source, so every developer practically consumes open source. So in this inbound compliance program, we have to teach the developers that even if they just write and include into their code, it is consumption of open source, and then it has consequences. We have to teach about transient dependency, software compositional analysis, all of these things. Plus, of course, we have our internal processes. We have to teach about the internal processes, so what people need to know, what they need to do when they are consuming open source in their software. And there is the outbound compliance process. So this is relevant for developers who are contributing to open source or also who are not contributing to open source. I don't know how is it in your companies, but in our company there is still like lots of myth happening around contributing to open source. People do not see the real risk. They don't know who to ask about the risk. So it's sometimes I see lots of questions which show that people just don't contribute to open source because they think it's forbidden. However, it's not. So we have to break down this kind of mental blocks in the training, and we have to teach people how, like for Nokia people, how easy it is to contribute to open source, like how fluid the process, what things do they need to do, and how is it helping in their daily job. And then on top of these like compliances and processes, we have this category what I called practical nuances. So these are like very specific to a problem domain, and they are teaching about how to solve very practical areas of working in open source or working with open source. So here we have like this compliance in practice. This is like basically telling you step by step what you need to do, what tool you need to open, what things you need to do there, what are the important data what you need to provide for the compliance, how the compliance team works. So all of these things are in this practical nuances training for inbound compliance. Then there is another module what we are just thinking about, but I think we need an open source for developers training, which goes really to the details of both consumption and contributions to open source, and that is to teach the real practical details and nuances of these things in open source. Of course, it's very difficult. For example, you cannot have like a generic training how to contribute to open source because every project works a bit differently. So my idea for this training, we are just thinking about it, how to organize it, is to describe the, let's say, main flow, like contributions on GitHub, and then let's add some hooks that, okay, by the way, there are projects which are not developed in GitHub, so you have to like do some different things for those projects. But the basic concepts are always the same. It's just the tooling and the nuances which are a bit different in this case. And then, of course, like we have like compliance in practice for outbound also. So that's what we thought that are important for a developer. But of course, like it's totally different for legal. So, for example, on the compliance side, for legal, AI compliance is much more important. Now we have the EU AI Act, so we have to like analyze all the use cases. We have to understand all the licenses, and licensing of AI models is, how to put it, like not very easy. Because in open source, it's okay that we have like several hundreds of licenses, but there are like kind of repeating patterns. AI licensing is more complex than that, because most of the licenses are snowflakes, and they have some nuances which are important, so you always have to have somebody from legal who reads through these licenses, and they need to know what they are looking for. So that's why it's important to have like a specific training for legal on AI compliance. And as I said, like it's an important aspect for lawyers to know about open source in, let's say, explained in their language. So that's why we have an open source for lawyers training program, and that is done by a colleague of mine in the OSPO who is the legal counsel for open source. So it's really like from lawyers to lawyers, because you have, like, when you do a training, you have to speak the language who is the training for. So if I do a training for lawyers, that wouldn't really effective because I'm talking a bit different language and thinking about problems in different concepts. So that's our approach to that. And of course, as Nokia, we have like a patent licensing business. So for us, like the relationship of open source and patents is also a very important area, and we have to understand that all lawyers needs to have that kind of a perspective on open source also. So we have like a training related to that nuanced part of open source. Then managers. So this is, as I said, like this is not even one persona. I think there are these like middle managers who are managing people, and there are the decision makers who are making high-level decisions, and they both need to know about open source, and they have like a different need of the perspective on open source. So here I think what I would like to highlight is that we are planning to have like an open source for the executives training, and this is really for like decision makers, what they need to understand when they are making decisions, how open source can affect that, and how they can consider open source in these decisions. So that's a training what we plan. It's not done yet, but we identify that this is something what is necessary. And then we have lots of other personas in the company, like I mentioned already, like marketing and PR. So we prepare the training program in a way that we can hook small modules into the program later on. So if there is a need coming that we need to extend the training program, we can create another module for a specific topic. So this is how we build the structure after all. So we have the basic training, we have these policy trainings which are a bit bigger one, bit more conceptual one, and we have these modules which are focusing on practical nuances, and how we try to identify the needed trainings for the different personas. If somebody does the curriculum, it's only the basic training what is mandatory. All the others are like pick and choose, because it really depends on the person's need, what they need to know. Maybe we should now, as I'm talking about it, maybe we should like provide this kind of like learning path for people to give hints like what trainings would make sense for them. But yeah, that's something to consider in the future. And then we already did some of the trainings. We are implementing the curriculum, so we had to make this decision, like what kind of trainings do we do, because trainings have like different formats. So we have this possibility to do interactive trainings, which is basically like a web-based training with animations and narration and all of that. So this is the training that we decided to use, or format for the basics, where we have to reach lots of people, and where we need to provide this basic type of knowledge. Maybe we will use that also for the middle-level compliance trainings. These are very good to distribute this like basic type of knowledge. Then we have the other type, which is a recorded presentation. Like it's not magic, like you just record what you do in the screen. And I think this is very good to explain processes, like go to this tool, click on here, click there, this kind of things, where you don't explain abstract concepts, where you do really focus on the actual like doing things and how the processes are doing. Then, of course, there is like this very effective way of doing trainings where you do live presentation, but of course that has like the problem that our company is present in, I don't know how many countries, but a lot. So we cannot travel to to everywhere. But these live trainings are really good when you need interactions, when you want the crowd to ask questions, or when you solve a problem together. We had one session which was like a virtual training, which is like a kind of an alternative of this, when we just went through on the GitHub contribution process together with the trainees, so they could learn like how to make a fork, how to create a pull request, this kind of thing. So this is like very good when people have their own experience of the things. Like it is better for teaching them. And of course, like for the very detailed things, we are providing like offline readings, like we have books, we have presentations, what people can just get and read. But these are, I think, these are good for the very detailed nuances. So if you have to like reach lots of people, like giving everybody a book will not really work, I think. The good thing is that we don't need to do all of this alone, because there are very good trainings out there. So Linux Foundation Education provides very good trainings on open source, basic trainings for open source for developers, and even better, most of these trainings are free, and some of them are for pay, but if you are a Linux Foundation member, you have access to a certain amount of these trainings. They have a booth down there. You can reach out and ask them about the details. Very good trainings. Also, To-Do Group provides the OSPO 101 materials. So these are not actual trainings, but these are very good materials to build a training from. I really like those trainings. We are using some of the materials in our own training programs from To-Do Group. So look for these materials. You can either use them as they are, or you can use them as a source of your training program. You don't need to figure all of this alone. As you can see, like we have lots of crowd here. Like we are not alone with this. All right, so that was what I wanted to share. Are there any questions? Yep. I give you the mic.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a 5-part question on the different sections. First one, so you made this role-based training programs. Is it like a one-time where you prepare the course provided for the different roles, or is it like a continuous support program?
Thank you. It is, how to put it, like it is a one-time. So in either case, we are making the program once, but we have to update it continuously. So it became like a continuous program now. So we are continuously like checking the feedback and checking what we need to update on the trainings. So I would say it's better if it's a continuous, but then you have to have like the resources to do that.
Again, so after the program is rolled out, how do you measure the effectiveness? Do you kind of have some certifications or Q&As or for different roles?
Very good question. We have a feedback form for every training, but at the moment it is like a one-dimensional. Like you can start from 1 to 5, and you can give a textual feedback. I would like to do a bit more fine-grained survey after the trainings to get a bit more, how to put it, structured feedback.
The battery is the how to.
Oh, is it? Yes.
You make plug from the microphone so that it's being recorded.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, battery died. So then I will repeat the question. If you have more.
Yeah. So the interactive mode, do you also have the support where maybe from a developer role, I have a quick query on some licensing issues. So I can just reach out to some FAQ portal where I will get a live support. Do you have such kind of?
So the question was for the interactive type of trainings, like if somebody is asking about a particular topic, do we have the possibility to reach out to a live portal, even maybe a chatbot or something? No, not at the moment, but it's a very good idea. I like it. Oh, that's fine.
You introduced many blocks for each, let's say, role and exactly. What are the maturity level of each one of these blocks? In what kind of interactive or live presentation, or what type they are available at which quality, let's say, or which level?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So the question was like currently what of these trainings are available on which level, basically. So we have the open source basics was rolled out. It's an interactive training. We have the inbound and outbound compliance. At the moment, they are recorded presentations. And we have a generic training for lawyers, which was a classroom presentation recorded. And we have the inbound compliance in practice and then outbound compliance in practice. That's also like recorded clicking through.
And they are free accessible in GitHub, or where are they?
No, they are not. So they are internal trainings. Sorry for that. Sorry, the question was that if they are accessible in GitHub. No, they are not, because they all of them contain lots of Nokia specific information, lots of information about our compliance program, and that's like not something what we would like to share in general. But I'm happy to talk about them, like how did we build the details.
The offering.
Yes. Okay.
So in our company we do trainings too, but we have trouble reaching all the necessary people, so not only developers but like project managers and so on. So how do you make sure in your company that everybody who needs this training gets the training? Is it mandatory for specific people, or how do you do it?
Yeah, so the question was like how we make sure that the training reaches the people who needs to get the training, if I understood correctly. That's a difficult question. We don't have a very good way to do that. We have a training portal and people can search for topics. So if they search for open source, they will find this curriculum and that explains the structure. There is a possibility to do mandatory trainings, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. Because that is like that. For that you have to like very clearly identify the audience, and it takes everybody's time, and nobody likes mandatory things. So it's a possibility, but we didn't do it. Yeah.
Do you have any program to establish a minimum standard for open source literacy inside your company? So then, for example, when you're talking to a developer or to a manager, no matter what level, or to a legal person, that you can say, okay, at least they pass that threshold of minimum literacy, so then you are talking the same term and the same understanding about the topics that you're bringing in discussion. Is it manifests itself in your strategy, or it's being seen on that way?
So the question was that if we have like a minimum set of literacy, what everybody needs to know about open source, so we know that we talk about the same things. Yes and no. We have an open source SOP where we define certain things about open source, but it is like being an SOP, it's a very like dry document. We don't have any certification program. There was a question there about it. If we have any certification open source, we do not have it yet, but it's a very good idea, and maybe we should have like like, I don't know, open source literacy index or something. So just to set the level in the whole company, but it's a good.
A follow-up question. Do you think it is needed? Is it a must-have or nice-have thing?
The literacy, I think it's a must-have thing. Certification program, I think it's a nice to have thing. It's good to have like a certification program, but again, like if you force people to do the certification, then it's like they lose the motivation somehow, and it becomes like, you know, an exercise, and they forget about it. So both. Yep.
Do you often face like friction from like legal department when it comes to like open source, especially in aspects when they like if they subcontract a project or like some work, part of the work, and the company who's doing it would like to contribute back like some fixes or whatever to open source projects, but the company typically wants to have the ownership of, you know, any collateral or like all the work, and how is it usually fixed with like the legal people? Do they take it easily? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so it's not specifically a training question. But the question was that if we have any friction in legal about open source, especially when we have to hand over the IP of something what the company did for us because they would like to contribute to open source. We have processes for that. So all legal people knows what process they need to execute when we are in this situation. So I would say they are quite okay with that. So we have a process, we run the process, it will have a result, and we will just act accordingly. There was one question, yeah.
I assume that for some parts of the process you have some specific tools. Does your training comes already with, you know, the tooling part, or it is purely focused on the processes?
Yeah, the question was if the training comes including with like references to concrete tools, or if it's only about the processes. It is, even in this compliance training, we are referring to certain tools, but in Nokia we are working in a way that, for example, software composition analysis is up to the R&D team. So we are using lots of SCA tools, so we don't mention those in the compliance process. But we have a central tool, which is a homegrown tool for compliance. So this tool is mentioned in the compliance process. Any other questions? Then thank you very much, and have a nice rest of the conference.